Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Flower Power Live. I'm so happy to have you here tonight. And this week, I'm going to be beginning maybe a 6-week series, which is going to happen between now and the holidays, on these common culinary herbs that we kind of just don't give enough credit to. Herbs that we use all the time, and we don't really think about the fact that, wow, they might be common and important to us, not just for their flavor, but also for the other health benefits that they have. So, hello, my name is Allison from The Well Cultivated Life, and thank you so much for joining me here for Flower Power. Now, this week, we're going to start out with parsley. Parsley is Petroselinum, crispum, and it is native to the Eastern Mediterranean regions, such as Turkey, Sardinia, Greece, all of the sort of eastern part of the Mediterranean along the shore. So it's a member of the Apiaceae family, and that includes carrots, celery, and other herbs like cumin, dill, and fennel. Now, according to this book here, The Language of Flowers, which I haven't looked at for a while. It's very, or I guess it's called Forget Me Not, A Language of Flower. There's some lore around parsley, and it occupied a noble place in ancient cultures. The leaves were worn into garlands for heroes, both heroes of war and heroes of the Grecian games, and they were also worn at marriage feasts. The seeds were used in aromatic salts by the Romans, and the fresh leaves in sauces and gourmet dishes. And then it was brought into more northern Europe as trade routes opened up. And so during Elizabethan times, it was used in cooking and also used to create poultices for liver and kidney complaints. However, there is a lot of superstition around parsley that's associated with death or disaster. And there was a saying, to be in need of parsley meant that you were pretty much hopelessly ill. However, fortunately, we realized that we've gotten beyond those beliefs. And as we will find out, that's a good thing, because parsley is a very beneficial and useful plant for many different conditions. Now, parsley is a biennial, and that means that in year one, what we usually see in the grocery store like this, or I actually got this from my local farm, is the leaves from the first year of growth that forms a rosette in year one, and then it puts on a flower stalk in year two. And it's relatively easy to grow, and I usually grow it every year, but it is kind of hard to start from seed. So you want to make sure that if you're planning to grow parsley and you want to start it from seed, you want to start very early. It can be between 4 and 6 weeks to start, and then you get this little teeny sprout. So a lot of times people will just go to the greenhouse and just get some that are already started for a couple of bucks, right? Now, in cooking, parsley is used as a garnish, but this is just such a waste of this wonderful plant, because the reason why it's on your plate at the restaurant or at your home is because it has a lot of helpful abilities to aid our digestion. It's also very nutritious and contains a large amount of vitamins K, C, beta carotene, and a lot of other compounds. So if you include, you can't just eat one little sprig like this. It's not going to be enough to get the benefits of the vitamin. That's good. So you really have to include it in your other cooking, like throwing sprigs into your salad, soups, and whatever else you're cooking. And it does have a relatively mild taste, so it's pretty easy to include in a lot of the things. One dish that a lot of people like to make is a parsley pesto. So instead of basil, I'll chew this up. Instead of basil, you can use parsley. You can use a lot of other herbs to make a pesto as well. So that's another way that you can easily just kind of spoon some parsley ready to go into whatever you're cooking. Now, one disadvantage of this nutritional aspect of parsley is the fact that A lot of other creatures also know how good it is for them. And I personally have a very hard time growing it in my garden because the deer and the woodchucks, and fortunately I don't have rabbits, but if I did, they'd probably come too. So I want to show you, here's some parsley that I started at the beginning of the year. It was growing great, and then it just got completely chowed down. So I moved it out of my garden onto my deck, put it into this window box because the deer in theory wouldn't come up on my deck, and they didn't. But I never got a good parsley crop this year. Now, the flour that it makes is an umbel. And so this is not parsley, but this is fennel, which is one of its cousins. And so it has this umbrella-like flower head on it. And so each one of these flower heads has a whole bunch of individual flowers on it. And members of this family are definitely liked by pollinators, not just honeybees necessarily, but other different kinds of bees and wasps and other kinds of pollinators that come around the garden. So, but let's talk about parsley and how it's just a little bit misunderstood. And I wanted to share, I put all my books over here for some reason, a nice quote from one of my favorite herb books, Alchemy of Herbs by Rosalie de la Forêt. And what she says is this: many folks are so intent on finding the next exotic herb and spice from faraway lands that our common kitchen herbs rarely get the respect they deserve. Take parsley as an example. Oftentimes, it's often thought of simply as a garnish to make a dish look more appealing, but few realize the power stored in a handful of leaves. Eaten frequently, it can freshen your breath, improve digestion, and decrease oxidative stress. So that sounds pretty good to me. This herb has, of course, a long history of use. As we learned, it was used by the Greeks and who knows, people before that and on through time, and then is a regularly found in grocery stores. I mean, you can go buy parsley anytime, right? So it's used for many different aspects of bodily health. And Matt Wood refers to parsley as warming, nourishing. I'm still chewing on this though. Nourishing, thinning, and opening. This means that it can regulate fluids and break up stagnant conditions. It's warming and thinning, so it can kind of get things moving. But it's pretty well known for sort of like kidney conditions. It helps to balance the sodium content in our like internal waters, and also break up the kidney stones that people might have. And it's an excellent remedy for bladder infections, that you can just basically take a bunch of parsley, chop it up, just let it soak in water, and then just drink the infused parsley juice out of that water a couple times a day. It also helps with digestion, and that helps to increase appetite for those who need that, decrease your bad breath, and generally just stimulate digestion. It helps with gas and bloating. And the main constituent that does that is the essential oils, because what they do is they help to stimulate the bile and the other digestive juices that then help the digestive enzymes digest your food better. So don't leave that piece of parsley on your plate, although at a restaurant, I don't know if they're expecting you to eat it or not, so who knows. But get in the habit, putting some parsley on the side of your dishes that you serve at home. Now, it also contains several compounds that have antioxidant properties. So this, of course, is good for the whole body, but also for the heart as well, because it's combined with these other vitamin K, vitamin C, and beta carotene, and a bunch of other wonderful compounds that are very good for people. Now, it is not recommended to be taken in large quantities during pregnancy, or if you're on blood thinners, because it does have this sort of thinning capability. So you want to make sure you're being careful if you are taking any of those kinds of medications, or if you are pregnant. So the flower essence for parsley, according to Sacred Space Essences, it is for those with fixed mindsets who have held on to their beliefs without ever reevaluating them. Parsley flower essence remedy opens up the mind to new ways of thinking. It liberates the mind with fresh perspectives, new ideas, and inspirational thinking. It teaches us that in order to change our world, we must first change our thinking. Change, 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 right? And now, Spirit of Transformation Essences says that this essence has the spirit of new growth, and it primarily affects our mental part of our self, opening us to new thoughts and beliefs. And it's very helpful when we have a fixed point of view, especially if we have an inner standard that we've been holding ourselves to this high standard that we're never going to meet. And then we start to criticize ourselves, and we're like in this kind of vicious cycle of having a standard that is not useful, and then also getting mad at ourselves when we don't meet it. I know I've never done that, and I'm sure you haven't either. So it must be somebody else that this essence is good for, right? So anyway, it helps us to be more kind to ourselves and just to recognize that this probably isn't necessary anymore. Now, of course, I decided to do all these culinary herbs, and then I couldn't find none of my plant cards had parsley. So I decided to pull a card from this Akashic Oracle deck by Mel Shapcot, which is always inspiring. And the word that came up was transform. So it says, there comes a time when each of us is called to transform. Like flowers, we grow gradually and steadily. Yet when the seasons change, we must embrace metamorphosis. There is nothing to do, only to be, and to allow the unfolding to take place. The less we resist, the gentler the process. When a leaf falls from a tree, the cold night signals, and the leaf simply lets go. Like a leaf carried by the breeze and swept away by the stream, float onward to rebirth and renewal. I love this beautiful message, and partly because she's using this seasonal plant metaphor to talk about transformation. And it's just, I love how it relates to the seasonal shift. And transformation, obviously can take place at any time of year, but it is definitely more obvious in nature during spring and fall. The other day, my son and I were talking about fall and seasons. And he's like, well, really, there's only really two seasons. There's summer and there's winter. And I had to agree, from a nature perspective, there's the growing season, time when stuff grows. And then there's the dormant season when stuff is not growing, when plants are not growing. So, but we need these transitional seasons of spring and fall to move us between those two states, right? We cannot go directly from summer into winter. We need to transition. And it's when things start to transition, all of a sudden we're taking notice. Oh, the leaves are starting to fall, or the buds are starting to come up, and oh, look at the new greenery in the spring, and the trees are bare in the winter. And then it seems to kind of stay in that state for a long time, and then all of a sudden it transitions again. So if we look at the flower essence, which is asking us to kind of re-examine our thinking and be willing to let go of this fixed mindset. Again, in summer, to open our mind, right? Summer is a very open time. The flowers are open. Everybody's open to the world. Winter is a very closed time. And again, in nature, if we didn't have this transition, we would just stay in this one state. But staying in one state is kind of the opposite of growth. And it's just the opposite of life, really. So the constant shifting of the seasons is really a wonderful metaphor for our lives, if we think about it that way. And when it's time to transform or transition, you gotta go. Parsley is a biennial, so it's not going to come up in year 2 and go, well, I just really don't feel like putting on a flower or going to seed this year. I mean, the plants in nature, they follow the natural flow of the seasons. So before I get too philosophically into this. I just want to give you a little challenge for this week. I knew I was going to do that, right? So this week, just examine, as the flower essence says, one of these internal standards or beliefs that you have, and just ask, how can I, do I still need it? How can I transform and maybe release this, just kind of as the metaphor of the card said, like the cold hits, the tree drops its leaves. Like it's not going to be questioning whether it should or not. So it would be pretty foolish as a human for us to say, oh, I'm still going to wear my my winter parka in June because you know what? It worked really well back in February. So take some time to kind of look at some of these standards or beliefs or something that you have and see if maybe this is a great transition time, a great transformation time. We just had a new moon, which is always a time of starting something new. So see if maybe you can let go of something new and transition into a belief that maybe suits you a little bit better. And don't forget to load up your plate with parsley, your smoothie, soup, salad, lots of places you can put more parsley into your diet for nutrition and overall health. So that's our message tonight from Parsley. And I hope you have a wonderful week. If you are not following me on Instagram, you can go to Cultivate My Life. That's my handle. And follow me there. And I'm updating kind of what I'm doing with seasonality. Yesterday, I just made a bunch of salves with a friend of mine and posted some pictures of those. So until next week, have a great week, everyone. And I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.